I never thought a simple plastic shed could destroy friendships, divide a neighborhood, and cost people over $80,000. But that's exactly what happened. And the craziest part? It all started in my own backyard. It was the summer of 2021, one of the hottest summers we'd ever had. My wife Emily and I had just finished cleaning out our garage. Between the kids' bikes, holiday decorations, and all my tools, we barely had room to park the car anymore. So I did what any normal homeowner would do. I went down to the local hardware store and bought a plastic storage shed. Nothing fancy, just a beige, weatherproof shed that could hold the lawnmower and a few boxes of junk. I remember unloading the pieces from the truck with my teenage son, Ryan. "This is perfect, Dad," he said, handing me the panels. "Finally, no more tripping over your toolbox in the garage." I laughed, wiping the sweat off my forehead. "Exactly. Your mom will be thrilled. This will make things so much easier." We built the shed in a single afternoon. By sunset, it was sitting neatly against the back fence, tucked out of sight, not bothering anyone. At least, that's what I thought. 2 days later, the first letter arrived. It was from the HOA. A single page typed in bold letters. "Violation notice, unauthorized structure. Remove shed immediately or face fines." I remember reading it twice, thinking there had to be some mistake. Our HOA was strict, sure, but people had gazebos, swing sets, even pergolas in their yards. Why was my little shed a problem? That night at dinner, I showed Emily the letter. She frowned. "You've got to be kidding me. Didn't the Johnsons put up a metal shed last year?" "Exactly," I said, tossing the letter onto the table. "And theirs is way bigger than mine. This doesn't make any sense." Ryan chimed in, "Maybe it's because of where you put it." But it wasn't about placement. It was about power. And I was about to learn just how far our HOA president, Marjorie Clark, was willing to go to prove she had it. Because the shed wasn't just a shed to her. It was a threat to her control. And trust me, things were about to get a whole lot uglier. The next week, I decided to confront the HOA directly. I went to the monthly board meeting, letter in hand. The room was packed with neighbors, folding chairs set up in neat rows. At the front sat Marjorie Clark, our HOA president. Marjorie was in her late 50s, always dressed like she was running for office. Pearl necklace, stiff blazer, that fake smile that never quite reached her eyes. When it was time for me to speak, I stood up. "Hi, I'm Daniel Miller from 214 Oakwood. I just wanted to ask about this violation notice I got. It's about the shed in my backyard." Marjorie raised her eyebrows. "Yes, Mr. Miller, the shed is in violation of HOA guidelines. You'll need to remove it." "With all due respect," I said, my voice steady but firm, "my shed is plastic, small, and placed in the back where no one can see it. The Johnsons have a shed. The Parkers have a pergola. Why am I being singled out?" The room got quiet. Some neighbors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Marjorie's smile tightened. "We are enforcing rules consistently. If others have structures in violation, we'll deal with them as well. Your shed is not permitted." Emily squeezed my hand. I could feel her trying to keep me calm. "So what's the actual problem?" I asked. "Is it the size, the material, the placement?" Marjorie's voice hardened. "The problem, Mr. Miller, is that you didn't ask for permission. The shed must come down. That's final." I could feel the heat rising in my face. I'm not tearing down a brand new shed because of some power trip. A murmur went through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement. Others avoided looking at me. Marjorie leaned forward, her voice dripping with authority. "If you refuse, the board has the right to fine you. And trust me, we will." That night, I walked out of the meeting more determined than ever. This wasn't about a shed anymore. This was about fairness. And I wasn't about to back down. But what I didn't know was that Marjorie had already set her sights on making me the example, the homeowner who challenged her power and lost. The fines started small. $50 here, $100 there. Each notice arrived in the mail like clockwork. Failure to comply. Continued violation. Within a month, the total had reached $1,000. Emily was worried. "Daniel, this is insane. We can't just keep ignoring these." I rubbed my temples. "I'm not ignoring them. I'm fighting them. They don't have the right to do this." Ryan, ever the realist, muttered, "Feels like they kinda do, Dad." But I wasn't ready to give in. Instead, I started digging. I pulled out old HOA documents, rules, and bylaws, and that's when I found something interesting. Nowhere did it say plastic sheds were forbidden. The rules only banned permanent structures without approval. This isn't permanent. It's basically like a tent for tools. They don't have a leg to stand on. But Marjorie wasn't giving up. At the next meeting, she announced something that made my stomach drop. The board has authorized legal counsel to pursue the Miller violation. Unfortunately, this will come at a cost to the community. To cover expenses, we'll be implementing a special assessment of $500 per household. The room erupted. Neighbors shouted in disbelief. "You're taxing us over a shed?" someone yelled. Marjorie held up her hand. "Order! This homeowner's refusal to comply has forced our hand. We must defend the integrity of our neighborhood." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My shed was about to cost the entire neighborhood thousands of dollars. And just like that, the lines were drawn. Some neighbors blamed me. Others blamed Marjorie. Friendships cracked. People stopped waving when I walked by. The shed wasn't just a shed. It was a symbol. And the war was just beginning. At first, I thought people would rally behind me. After all, who wants to pay $500 for someone else's fight? But the neighborhood started splitting into camps. The Johnsons, who had a shed of their own, avoided me completely, afraid they'd be next. The Parkers whispered about me at block parties, and the Smiths, who had always been our closest friends, told Emily maybe we should just take the shed down for the sake of peace. Emily cried that night. "We didn't move here for this, Daniel. We just wanted a nice neighborhood for the kids." I hugged her, but my jaw was set. We're not giving in, not when we're right. But the stress was getting to me. I could feel it every time I stepped outside and saw neighbors turn away. Every time Ryan came home from school and told me kids were asking why his parents were the troublemakers. Then one evening, an older man named Mr. Green knocked on my door. He lived down the street, retired military, always kept his lawn perfect. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, stepping onto the porch. Of course I said, surprised. He looked me dead in the eye. "You're not wrong, son, but you need to understand, Marjorie has ruled this neighborhood for a long time. People are scared of her. You stand up, you better be ready for the fight of your life." I swallowed hard. I'm ready. But I wasn't sure if my family was. And the next move Marjorie made would push us all to the breaking point. The legal battle dragged on for months. Every time I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. The HOA's legal bills skyrocketed, and soon the board raised the special assessment again, another $500, then another. Neighbors were furious. Some started openly blaming Marjorie. Others still pointed fingers at me. One night, someone even spray-painted "Take it down" across my driveway. Emily was shaken. "This has gone too far, Daniel. They're turning people against us." I clenched my fists. Then we fight harder. And that's when it happened. The twist no one saw coming. At the next HOA meeting, a group of neighbors stood up together. Mr. Green, the Johnsons, even the Parkers. One by one, they called out Marjorie's leadership. "This isn't about a shed anymore," Mr. Green said, his voice booming. "This is about abuse of power. We've had enough." Then he pulled out a petition. "We're calling for a recall vote." Gasps filled the room. Marjorie's face went pale. "You can't be serious." But they were.
and suddenly the tide began to turn. The recall vote was brutal. Flyers went up, neighbors knocked on doors, every conversation in the cul-de-sac was about the shed. On voting day, the community center was packed. Emily held my hand the entire time, her palms sweaty. When the votes were counted, the result was clear. Marjorie was out, by a landslide. The new board dropped the lawsuit immediately. The fines were erased, the special assessments were reversed. And me? I got to keep my shed. I'll never forget that first quiet evening after it was all over. Sitting on my porch with Emily, watching Ryan shoot hoops in the driveway, the neighborhood felt lighter, free. I turned to her and said, "All this over a plastic shed?" She laughed,
shaking her head. The most expensive shed in history. And she wasn't wrong. The HOA had wasted over $82,000 fighting me, money they could never get back. In the end, the shed stood tall, not because it was plastic or because it was mine, but because sometimes you have to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. And if there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's that power only lasts as long as people allow it. The shed wasn't just a shed anymore. It was proof that one person could make a difference.